After marrying my deaf childhood friend, we made hate every day. No feelings involved, only skill. When the 5 years were up, I had planned to end the agreement immediately. But then I remembered how he almost got hit by a car while buying me candied hawthorns, his ears deaf, and my heart softened. Later, when I was ready to talk to him about whether we should just stay like this, I overheard his buddy teasing him in the hallway. "Dude, addicted to pretending you're deaf." Luke toyed with his hearing aid, leaning against the wall with a smirk. Only when I can't hear her can she truly be herself. I froze on the other side of the wall. Wait, all those dirty things I said in bed? He heard every single word? Most people secretly love their childhood friend. Not me. I purely hated him. Hated how he blew up poop and splattered it on me when we were kids. Hated how he stuck gum in my hair in middle school. Hated how he made me cover for him when he skipped study hall in high school. Other girls' childhood friends are all sweet and considerate. Mine? Like a defective product randomly handed to me like a sticky, unwanted freebie. In all these years of dealing with him, there wasn't a single good thing, only a mountain of disasters. Luckily, he went abroad right after high school, and I got 4 peaceful years in college. But as soon as I graduated, I ran into the last person I ever wanted to see again, plus a worse piece of news. My family had gone bankrupt, and my unreliable dad wanted to marry me off. Luke sat across from me, head lowered. Even in his sharp, tailored suit, he couldn't hide his insecurity. The cocky boy from my youth was gone. Seeing me silent, his pale knuckles turned white as he clenched his fists, his eyes filled with broken despair. "Wait!" My mind snapped back to what he had just said. His ears were damaged? I jumped up and rushed to him, finally noticing the hearing aid beneath his messy hair. Luke's eyes darkened, his tone carrying a familiar gritted teeth edge. "How did they get damaged?" I asked. Luke froze. "I didn't know how to use the induction cooker while studying abroad, blew them out." "I'll marry you. I'll marry you." I clamped my hand over his lips before he could speak again. His puppy-like wide eyes stared at me blankly as I tried to suppress my overwhelming joy. Since we were kids, I'd never won an argument with Luke 1 word from me, and he could fire back 10 like a machine gun. "Luke, are you part dog or what?" I shouted, covering my swollen, stinging lips, shoving his strong chest. But instead of pushing him away, I ended up closer, wincing in pain. Luke paused, squinting to read my lips. "Babe, I can't read your blabbering. Put on my hearing aid, will you?" he said, grinning as he continued. I was losing it. "Can you just put your damn hearing aid on?" I reached for the hearing aid on the nightstand, but his hot, strong hand covered mine, interlacing our fingers and pressing them above my head. His warm breath hit my neck, making me shiver. I looked up. He lazily lifted his eyelids, his gaze dark and his voice husky. "Babe, you don't need to hear for this. The day we reached an agreement at the restaurant, Luke and I went straight to the marriage office to get our license. But I kept my guard up. After all, it was just a marriage of convenience, a mutually beneficial arrangement to help our families through tough times. No way I was really going to give my life away to this man. I didn't even like him. We agreed on 5 years. Luke was under family pressure to marry, needing a proper, well-mannered wife for appearances. And among all my potential matches, he was the best option, a business deal. When the benefits dried up, we'd part ways. Luke agreed happily, signing the contract. On our wedding night, lying on the crimson marriage bed, a sudden fear struck me. Had I really thought this through? He wanted a wife. I wanted a marriage. This was a real marriage, not some game. Were we supposed to do that? My thoughts spiraled as the sound of running water in the bathroom faded. Luke walked out wrapped in nothing but a towel. Steam filled the room. His hair, still dripping wet, clung to his forehead. Droplets ran down his chest and over his sharp abs. He was built like a perfect inverted triangle. Broad shoulders, narrow waist. Before I could fully take it in, Luke started walking toward me. My heart pounded. Was it happening this fast? I gulped. "Luke, I'm not ready." As he brushed past me, I squeezed my eyes shut and clutched the blanket tightly. A gust of air passed, but the touch I'd braced for never came. The wardrobe door swung open, and Luke pulled out a quilt, flashing me a grin. "I'll sleep next door. Don't want to bother you." I looked down at myself, small. Sure, but did he have to insult me like that? "Luke, are you saying I'm too small?" Anger surged from deep inside me. Luke didn't even turn around. "What do you mean? We both agreed to this marriage. Are you saying I'm not good enough for you?" "At least I'm a C. It's not that small," I huffed. "And what about you? Are you that big?" I ranted on, but Luke just kept walking without turning back, about to step into the next room. My eyes burned red with rage. I jumped off the bed, tackled him from behind, and shouted, "Fulfill your husbandly duties!" Luke looked utterly confused as the towel around his waist slipped off with one kick. It wasn't until I lay breathless on the bed that I realized he hadn't been provoking me on purpose. The guy hadn't even been wearing his hearing aid. Surprisingly, life with Luke turned out better than I had expected. We were old acquaintances, and by the time we married, he had already become the company's heir. He was so busy I barely saw him during the day. All I was left with was peace and a black card. After finishing his last sip of porridge, Luke stood up, adjusted his cufflinks, grabbed a folder, and headed for the door. I looked up from my bowl. "You've been so busy lately." The clock read just past 8. Usually, after breakfast, Luke would read the paper or chat with me for a while before heading out. This time, he straightened his tie, slipped on his shoes, and walked to the door. "Dad's rushing a project. I need to check on the progress." Whenever he said Dad, he always meant my dad. Counting the years, this was already our 4th year together, and he was still diligently working for my father. My thoughts drifted to the agreement, and I blurted out, "Our marriage contract is almost up. You don't have to work so hard for him anymore." Luke's hand paused on the doorknob. Silence fell. Yes, our marriage began with a contract, but we'd actually lived together for 5 solid years. What I said made it sound like I was done using him and ready to toss him aside. I was about to explain, but Luke spoke first. His voice rushed. "I've been too busy lately. Let's talk later. Oh, and I have a business trip tonight. Text me if you need anything." Before leaving, I saw him awkwardly adjusting his hearing aid. In that moment, my heart felt like it was pricked by a silver needle. He was feeling insecure again, insecure about his hearing loss. Did he think I was disgusted by his disability? At first, I'd planned to end the contract after 5 years, but over these past 4 years, we'd gotten along so well. As long as Luke wasn't on a business trip, we were making hate pretty much every day. On regular days, Luke would accompany me shopping, to amusement parks, or on trips. I never really treated him like a husband. After all, we were childhood friends for years. Being together never felt awkward or uncomfortable. Over time, I even got used to having him hold me while I slept. Like now, lying alone on this big empty bed, staring at the empty chat window on my phone, I felt oddly restless. He said this morning to text if anything came up, but it's been 3 hours since I messaged him. No reply. Damn it! Did he get hit by a car? A chill shot through me as I sat up straight in bed. Last spring festival, Luke and I didn't go back to either of our parents' homes. Instead, we stayed in and had a simple hot pot. After dinner, we wrapped ourselves in a long scarf and went for a walk. When I spotted candied hawthorns by the street, I whined for some. Luke slipped out of the scarf, wrapped me up tightly, and told me to wait while he went to buy them. It was just across the road. But that day, a car lost control of its brakes. Without his hearing aid on, Luke was smiling and waving the candied hawthorns at me as he walked back. If he hadn't jogged those last few steps, I don't even want to imagine what would have happened. He never realized how close the danger was, still smiling like a fool as he stuffed the skewers into my hand. "I got you one of each flavor. Eat all you want." My dad wouldn't even bother buying me candied hawthorns. Luke only wished he could pluck stars from the sky for me. I don't know if it was the scare from that close call or how handsome he looked under the streetlight that night, but my heart skipped a beat. Luke's a good man now, though he was an absolute jerk growing up. My phone buzzed, snapping me back. Luke, just finished a meeting. What's up? My heart finally settled back into place. I suddenly felt like some things needed to be said in person. By the time I landed in Yuncheng, it was already the next morning. With no flights available overnight, I took the earliest train. After arriving, Luke's assistant told me his location, and I rushed over. What should I say when I see him? Honestly, this arrangement has worked out pretty well. Luke would make a good lifelong partner. We know everything about each other. Well, except for his hearing loss. Love or not doesn't really matter in families like ours. Actually, I don't mind spending my life with him. His abs feel nice, his face is soft to squeeze, and his lips are great to kiss. Plus, when he takes off his hearing aid, I can curse him out freely. What other man would let me swear at him like that? Honestly, only Luke fits my taste. Suddenly, I regretted being so cautious back then. I don't even know if Luke would want to scrap the agreement and stay married. Summoning my courage, I headed upstairs, pulling out my phone to call him, when I heard a familiar voice from behind the hallway. Dude, still addicted to playing deaf? Playing deaf? I froze and tilted my head slightly. It was Luke's close friend. I'd met him at a banquet before. Luke was standing with his back to me, fiddling with his hearing aid, half his face hidden in shadow, his tone light and amused. Only when I play deaf can she be completely herself. But your ears healed months ago. You can't hide it from her forever. We'll see, Luke replied with a grin. But seriously, you should tell her. She's your wife, man. Keeping secrets like that isn't cool. My mind buzzed, blocking out the rest of their conversation as they walked off side by side. I ducked into a nearby utility room, trying to process what I'd just heard. Luke's ears had healed. The reason he hid it was so I could freely be myself. I thought he didn't wear his hearing aid at home because he found the noise distracting and wanted to focus on work. Who knew his hearing had recovered? I always figured he couldn't hear me when I threw tantrums around the house. But that means he heard me fart loudly in the living room too. Worse yet, the dirty talk I spewed in bed, he heard it all. As I fled toward the airport, ready to head home, Luke suddenly called. Heard from my assistant you were looking for me. Crap, I'd forgotten I contacted his assistant for his location. My steps faltered as I rambled. I was bored at home and decided to travel. What a coincidence. I clutched my phone, staring at my toes, but couldn't stop Luke's face from flashing in my mind. This was exactly why I'd come, but now I realized he heard all those things I said in bed. Forget it. We're still legally married. What's wrong with a little bedroom talk? It's not illegal, right? Not like we'll get arrested for public indecency. Giving myself a pep talk, I took a deep breath and said, I'm at the airport. Come pick me up. I had overestimated my mental strength and my shamelessness. When Luke appeared, I blushed uncontrollably. Hot? He asked. I looked up. He was wearing the same charcoal grey suit I saw in the hallway, elegant yet casually aloof. He must have rushed over right after his meeting. He took my suitcase and naturally reached for my hand, shielding me on the inside of the sidewalk. I'm heading back tomorrow. Stay the night and come home with me. Smiling at the traffic light, he buried his face in his scarf, clearly in a good mood, and somehow I was too. I nodded. That night, after showering, I crawled into Luke's bed. It was always warmer sleeping next to Luke. I hugged his waist and snuggled deeper into his chest. He smelled faintly of citrus, so comforting. I always slept better wrapped in his arms. I couldn't resist inhaling him again, not noticing how his body temperature steadily rose. By the time I realized it, he was already on top of me, our breaths mingling, noses touching. Our rapid breaths intertwined. Like I've said before, Luke was very skilled at kissing. From my forehead to my eyes, nose, lips, down to my collarbone, each touch like a jolt of electricity, sending shivers down my spine. Controlled yet burning with desire, I opened my eyes, dazed, craving to be closer. "Luke, I want you." But just as I spoke, my leg around his waist froze. I suddenly remembered what he said to his friend in the hallway. Luke could hear. He could hear everything. Watching him work so intently as if nothing was wrong, I bit my lip and swallowed the words I almost blurted out. What a damn good actor. Enjoying listening to me all this time, huh? Fine. Two can play this game. I shut my eyes again, relaxed my tense body, and stayed silent. Luke fumbled for a while, sensing something was off but unable to reveal he could hear. So, he simply kept going. In a daze, he hooked my hand and pressed it against his stomach, his eyes damp like a pure yet wild little fox. I suddenly recalled the things I'd once said. "Honey, you're amazing. Honey's right here. Honey, you're making me cry." I bit my lip hard, clinging to my last shred of composure. Luke seemed determined to push me, his wet eyes locked onto mine while his movements grew rougher. I couldn't hold it in anymore. I opened my mouth, but twisted the words at the last second. "Luke, have your skills gotten worse?" The man on top of me stiffened, but kept moving, tilting his face innocently and staring at my lips, mouthing, "What are you saying?" I held back my laughter. "I said you're terrible." Someone was furious but didn't dare show it. "Oh, right. You're not wearing your hearing aid. You can't hear me. You know, I kinda want to try someone else. We've been together too long, it's lost its spark. Lately, I'm really into those sweet little puppy types. Young, obedient, full of energy." Luke's face grew darker and darker, still forcing himself to pretend he didn't understand, asking what nonsense I was muttering. But before I could add more, he buried his head into my neck, refusing to listen any further. This puppy didn't want to hear these things. That night, the man faking deafness quietly had his heart shattered. As I lay there with my eyes closed, letting Luke dress me, I couldn't help but sigh again, self-conscious. Luke was overflowing with husbandly charm. "Honey, should you wear these black ones with red soles, or these nude ones?" Luke knelt on one knee, waiting for my command. Back when he was truly deaf, maybe he was genuinely insecure. But now, is he a poor, drowning puppy or a big, bad wolf? Resting my chin on my hand, I watched him leisurely. Luke blushed and turned his head away. I lifted my smooth, fair foot, lightly tracing up from his belt, chest, tie, to his shoulders. Tilting his chin up, I stared at his expert acting, his reddened ears, and chuckled softly. "Pick for me. You couldn't even pick the heels right." Luke's zipper broke. "I'll go change my pants first. Then I'll help you with your shoes." "Whoa, impressive." I shook my head, hooked the nude pair and tossed them aside. Looks like Luke prefers the black ones with red soles. As Luke led me back home from Yuncheng, I suddenly remembered the real reason I'd come. I recalled I'd originally come to discuss the agreement with him. But after all this fooling around, I'd totally forgotten. "Let's talk about the 5-year agreement we made before marriage." I pulled the wrinkled contract out of the drawer. I didn't see that Luke, who had half turned away, had quietly turned back. "Luke?" I called, but got no response. I raised my voice, still silence. I turned and saw his hearing aid lying openly on the table. No idea when he took it off. I picked it up and shoved it into his ear. "Put it on, we need to talk." I slapped the contract onto the table, but noticed Luke still standing by the entryway, repeatedly failing to hang his suit properly. He could clearly hear me, but the moment I brought up the agreement, he pretended not to. Did he want to void the contract and stay married too? The thought made me secretly excited. But I held back my grin, deliberately drawing out my words. "The 5 years are almost up. I feel like we may not be that compatible." No reaction, but I just put the hearing aid on him. Kicking off my heels, I stormed over and yanked his tie roughly. "Touch, touch, touch. You've rubbed your suit into fuzz and you're still touching. I'm talking to you, can't you hear me?" Luke looked utterly confused, pointing at his hearing aid and mumbling, "Seems like it's broken." "Sure, keep pretending." I pulled out my phone, ready to type it out. A flash of panic crossed Luke's eyes before he grabbed a jacket from the rack, put it on, and hurried out. I'm going out to get the hearing aid fixed. We'll talk later. Oh, right. My company has another meeting tonight. Don't wait up. I was speechless at the familiar excuse. Seriously? Is he really this into me? And not just tonight. For an entire week, Luke didn't come home. His messages were short and vague. His phone calls always had bad reception when certain words came up. Me, out of tricks and energy. Not even in the mood to tease him anymore. Because I realized I kind of missed him. I wanted to see him. Standing outside his office with a thermos in hand, my palms were sweaty, forcing me to keep switching hands. Strangely nervous for no reason. In these 5 years of marriage, we acted like any ordinary couple attending banquets, traveling abroad, celebrating holidays together. But whether it was holding hands or being intimate, we never once said the word love. We both tacitly treated it all as part of the marriage contract. Anyone in an arranged marriage would do the same, right? That's what I used to think until I realized that every day Luke wasn't around. His face kept popping into my mind. Luke shielding me on the inside while crossing the street. Luke hugging me in his sleep. Luke dressing me when I didn't want to get up in winter. Luke making me breakfast every morning even though I loved sleeping in. Bit by bit, Luke had already woven himself into my life. Now, I couldn't imagine living like this with anyone else. Staring at the soup I made, I grew uncertain again. I'd never cooked before. What if it tastes so bad Luke throws up on the spot? Maybe I should have just ordered takeout. But since I was already downstairs, I shut my eyes and made up my mind. Whatever. Drinking my soup is his blessing. Others don't even get the chance. As I reached for his office door, ready to enter, I heard an argument inside. Are you fucking insane? Do you know how much money that ridiculous demand from Jennifer's father cost our company? It was his partner's voice. That guy's a bottomless pit. Can't you see the crap projects he keeps pushing on you? And you just keep taking those silent losses? He's Jennifer's father. Does that justify everything? How many times has this happened? Count them yourself. The partner's voice shot up several octaves. Glass shattered inside. If you insist on investing in this project, I'm out. Consider this partnership over. The angry shouts echoed through the office building. The door slammed as the partner stormed out. Inside, Luke calmly continued discussing the project as if nothing had happened. But he had never mentioned any of this to me. My dad had apparently made all these outrageous demands behind my back. Passing employees whispered, "Arguing again seems like they argue every day. If Luke keeps this up, is our company going to collapse? Not something us little folks should worry about. Let's go, don't talk about it. Dating a love-struck guy like Luke. This lucky girl really wants everything. I don't even know anymore." I used to think every time my dad greeted me with a smile when I came home, it was because my marriage had helped his company survive that crisis. But it wasn't just that one time, it was every single time, continuously over the past 5 years. And I was still foolishly holding out hope for that blood-sucking father. Ridiculous. From the other side of the hallway came movement. Luke appeared. He saw me. I casually tossed the thermos into the stairwell trash can. "Honey, why are you here? Have you eaten? Let's go grab something." Luke smiled, reaching for my hand out of habit. I took 2 steps back, his hand grasping at air, and his smile froze. "Luke, I mind that you're deaf. The contract is over. We're getting divorced." "You ungrateful brat. Has Luke ever treated you badly? Why are you bringing up divorce?" As soon as I walked into the house, pain struck my forehead, followed by warm liquid trickling down my face to the corner of my lips. The metallic taste was strong. I stared at the shattered ashtray on the floor, then turned to face the man before me, the one I had once desperately tried to gain approval from. I asked, expressionless, "Dad, do you still love me at all?" I had never met my mother. She passed away the day I was born. Ever since I could remember, I loved following my father around. Back then, he wasn't like this. He used to buy me toys, lift me up high, tell me fairy tales. I really believed I had a father who loved me. But when did everything start to change? It began when I entered middle school, when my features matured. One of his friends said, "She's looking more and more like her mother." From that moment, his gaze toward me changed. The blame for my mother's death was placed on me. Late fees for documents, unattended parent-teacher conferences, skipped school events. It wasn't that we had no money. My father always used no time as an excuse. He was cruel, so cruel that he only gave me a brief, happy childhood before throwing me away. He said nothing, so I continued. "Am I just a pawn you use for flattery and gain? I married you off to Luke. Aside from his hearing, he's more than worthy of you. How am I treating you like merchandise?" As if still unsatisfied, he grabbed a glass from the table and smashed it onto the ground. I couldn't tell if he was venting anger or hiding guilt. He thought I didn't know his behind-the-scenes schemes. Because Luke was the first candidate for the marriage alliance, and the deal was finalized immediately, there were no other options afterward. But he had called countless companies. Some offered middle-aged men with big bellies, others ruthless heirs with hidden illnesses, and even men who were gay but forced by their parents into marriage. Looking at the man before me, once familiar, now foreign, I laughed, until tears welled up. So many times I wanted to expose him, to accuse him righteously, to force him to apologize, to ask if he knew I suffered from depression in college, to make him feel sorry for me. But everything I wanted was built on us being father and daughter. There was no need anymore. Wiping my tears, I pulled out a contract from my bag and slapped it onto the table. "Here's $5 million for raising me. From now on, we're no longer father and daughter. When you're unlucky, even drinking will get you into trouble." I tossed the empty wine bottle, staggering forward. My heel got stuck in a sewer grate. I yanked and twisted, but it wouldn't budge. Eventually, I gave up. As I fell backward, instead of the cold ground, I landed in a familiar, citrus-scented embrace. "Get up! Didn't I tell you to stop calling me?" It was Luke, his voice cold, tinged with anger. He was mad. His hand was freezing. I couldn't help but nuzzle my cheek against it. "The wine tastes awful," I pouted. The night breeze blew as the alcohol churned in my head. Luke yanked me up forcefully, making me dizzy and hot. I wanted to vomit. Ugh! Luke's face turned pale as I threw up all over his expensive suit. I vaguely remembered he had a thing about cleanliness. "Sorry, Luke, I dirtied your suit," I mumbled, reaching out to wipe it. But Luke pulled me away, quickly stripped off his suit, and tossed it into the trash without hesitation. That suit cost 80 grand. Seeing his warning glare, I lowered my voice guiltily. After all, I was the one who puked on it. "Give me your hand," Luke ordered with a cold face, pulling out a handkerchief and wiping my fingers roughly, one by one. "Luke, are you mad I ruined your suit?" My tearful eyes looked at my fingers red and swollen like little sausages. I couldn't help but burst into tears. "It was just a suit. Why are you so petty? You don't love me at all. If you love me, why did you marry me out of pity?" I struggled hard. Luke held me down like he was wrestling a pig on New Year's Eve. After a long scuffle, he finally tied me up completely, and I quieted down. Staring at him with tear-stained eyes, he pressed his finger to my forehead, squinting with a half-smile. "I don't love you? You forgot all the stuff you babbled about after one drink?" Suddenly, the world flipped as Luke threw me over his shoulder without mercy. "We'll talk after I deal with you at home." And he really dealt with me. When I woke up, I found myself in clean pajamas, the smell of food wafting from outside. Husbands really are good at handling things. Holding my pounding head, I was about to call out for Luke when a glass of warm water was pressed to my cheek. I looked up and met Luke's cold gaze. This was not good. He was angry. We'd made an agreement yesterday at lunch. Luke rarely got mad, but when he did, it was impossible to coax him. To save my waist, I dove straight into his arms, rubbing my cheek against his chest. "Luke, I'm sorry." Playing innocent, hoping he couldn't stay mad at me, I sat up and carefully moved my lips toward his for a kiss. Kisses, help! But my puckered lips were stopped by his firm finger. His eyes sharp, voice stern. Jennifer, don't change the subject. Repeat what you said to me at lunch. Ugh, I was trapped. My body went limp as I flopped back onto the bed, closing my eyes. After I handled things with Dad, I called you. I waited for you at the door. Luke's expression stayed cool. And? You said I could rely on you, use you, even hurt you. My voice got smaller and smaller. And Jennifer, I couldn't say it. Anything about love was always so hard for me to voice. After telling Luke I wanted a divorce at lunch yesterday, I was ready to leave. If I'd stayed 2 seconds longer, tears would have fallen. But Luke dragged me into his office against my will, forced my chin up, and made me look into his red eyes as he demanded. I repeat the word divorce while accusing me of looking down on him because he was deaf. I wasn't an actress. How could I be that convincing? Luke was too smart. True to his business instincts, after locking me in his office, he quickly pulled up security footage and discovered I had overheard every word of his conversation with his partner. Before the misunderstanding even had a chance to take root, he ripped off my disguise with brutal honesty. It was awkward, having my long-hidden vulnerability exposed to Luke. But also lucky, because even after seeing my true self, he still firmly held my hand. I once longed for my distant father to turn around and glance at me, even if only out of pity or charity. But all he ever gave me was abandonment, again and again, even pushing me into the quicksand when I had no one else to turn to. I've cried, complained, and begged, all to no avail. The psychological pain forced me to smile on the outside while suffering inside every single moment. Jennifer, a voice broke through the cracks of time. I saw a blinding light so intense it made me squint, but I still wanted to see where the voice came from. An 8-year-old Luke, dressed in an Ultraman onesie, held my tear-streaked hand in one hand and firecrackers in the other, saying he was taking me to blow up fish. Instead, we ended up tossing them into an outhouse and got ourselves covered in filth. At 15, rebellious Luke fought for me, accidentally spitting his chewing gum onto my head, forcing me to cut off my newly grown long hair. At 18, dressed in a fresh school uniform, Luke looked at me before his college entrance exams as if wanting to say something. In the end, he left for another country without a word. And now, at 30, Luke crossed that gap in time, wearing the Butter Bear apron I bought him, having just finished cooking for me. He gently pulled me into his arms, speaking softly like coaxing a child. I love you. Luke wanted me to learn to rely on him. I didn't get it. He dressed me, fed me, even bathed me. The only thing left was for him to wipe my butt. How much more dependent could I be? But he lifted his head from beneath me, his wet eyes gazing into mine. It's still not enough, he said. I wanted to argue, but my body melted into his, and I agreed to all his demands. Half a year later, he moved me abroad, shifting the company's focus overseas too. I knew he just didn't want me crossing paths with my father again. Ever since I officially cut ties, my father spread rumors everywhere that I was an ungrateful daughter. Luke quietly handled most of it, but some gossip still reached my ears. So he said, how about we live overseas? I thought of what he once told me to rely on him a bit more. So I did. I let him make all the decisions. All I had to do was enjoy. Luke made me believe one truth again. A person's temper is raised by the person who loves them. After another round in bed, I thought again of the grudge buried in my heart, how he left the country without a word, disappearing for 4 whole years. Looking at the satisfied man rubbing his cheek against mine, my anger flared up again. Honey, why'd you kick me? Luke lay sprawled awkwardly on the floor, looking confused. Did I not perform well just now? Let's do it again. He refused to admit defeat. I pushed his pouting lips away with my finger and asked through gritted teeth, why did you leave the country right after exams without even saying goodbye? Why didn't you contact me after you left? For 4 whole years, you barely messaged me except for a few holiday greetings. We weren't even regular friends. Did you forget what you said back in your second year of high school? Luke's shining eyes dimmed instantly, looking like a wronged puppy. What did I say? I really don't remember. You said you liked the class monitor and wanted to confess after the exams. Oh yeah, that did happen. I got so lost in thought, I didn't notice his voice starting to break. What did the class monitor even look like? Do you still have any photos? I elbowed him playfully, but hit only air. I turned around to see Luke standing 2 meters away, naked, arms crossed, facing the balcony as if in punishment. Uh-oh. Luke was always loving, but when he got jealous, he could tear the roof off. I never imagined anyone would step into my barren little world. He didn't drag me out of that wasteland by force. Instead, he sat beside me, slowly and patiently, placed his woven hat on my head to shield me from the blinding sun, then pulled out a shovel from behind him and smiled as he squinted. He asked, "Can I plant flowers here?" I stubbornly replied, "Flowers won't grow here." But he didn't believe me. He insisted on trying. Try and die, I thought. How could flowers bloom in a desert? Yet they did. I jumped off the bed barefoot, startling Luke into rushing over to catch me without a second thought. "Luke, it bloomed," I whispered, taking off his hearing aid, tiptoeing up to kiss his left ear. "Luke, I love you." Sweet words whispered into his left ear. This time, our hearts were finally aligned. We would never part again.